If you're in the process of switching to a new job or thinking about making a career shift, there are several money decisions that you need to make as you're kind of making this life transition. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk through some common mistakes and also things that you want to think about as you make a transition to a new job and what you should do with things like old 401ks or stock options from a previous company, and as well as making sure your healthcare is covered. So these are the different decisions that we're going to talk through in this video right now. Hey everybody, I'm Josh Bennett with Mr. Money Sense TV, the channel where we help you earn more, keep more, and grow more money. In this episode today, we are going to be talking about the money decisions that you need to make as you change careers. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. We put out a lot of valuable content that can help you grow your wealth. One of the first money decisions that you'll need to make is what to do with your old 401k. So if you're with a company now that has a 401k that you've been investing in, you need to make a decision on what you're going to do with that 401k. One of the options is to just leave the 401k where it is right now. So you can leave it in that company's 401k if they allow it. Most 401k providers will allow you to stay there because frankly, that's how they make money. So they'll allow you to stay as long as you're above some certain threshold. So usually $5,000. So if you have more than $5,000 in your 401k, most 401k plans will allow you to keep it where it is. Another option is rolling it to your new 401k. So if you're moving to a company that offers a 401k as well, you may be able to move it to that new 401k and just kind of keep them within that same 401k account that you're starting with the new company. Another option is you can roll that 401k to an IRA. So an IRA stands for individual retirement account. So as long as it's a individual retirement account that's the same taxation as your 401k. So for example, like if you have a Roth 401k and you just go to a Roth IRA, if you have a traditional 401k and you just go to a traditional IRA, as long as those tax implications match, you can roll from a 401k to an IRA when you leave a new company. And another thing you can do with it is you can actually take the money out of the 401k. However, that's not advisable just because you're going to get taxed when you take the money out of a 401k, most likely unless there's some extenuating circumstances that the IRS allows you to take the money out, but you're going to get taxed and you're probably going to incur a penalty. So that option, probably not the best one to do. But there are pros and cons to some of the other options. So when it comes to leaving your 401k where it is, one of the biggest cons and pros is that one pro is that convenience, you don't have to necessarily do anything. A con is that, it could create disorganization down the line. Like I have a lot of people that I work with that have 4, 5, 6 401ks. They don't know how any of them are doing. They can't even access some of the accounts just because it's been too long. So it can create some disorganization in your life. Also, the fees may be different at different 401k providers. So you may end up paying a higher fee at one you just kind of forgot about or didn't roll over when you could have been saving money this whole time. So those are some of the pros and cons about leaving where it is. A pro and con of moving the funds to the new 401k is many 401k providers allow you to take loans from that 401k. So it gives you a higher balance if you ever need to take a loan for the 401k. It gives you a higher balance to work so do that with. Another benefit is that just ease of use from just kind of keeping things organized and keeping them in one place. So that's one of the biggest pros of kind of transferring that to your current 401k. So one of the pros of transferring to or rolling that over to an individual retirement account is generally you're going to get much more flexibility in terms of what you can invest in an individual retirement account. So a lot of 401ks are very restrictive on the different mutual funds they offer. Like a lot of plans will only have, say, 20 mutual funds that you can pick from, and they may not be the best mutual funds. So rolling to an IRA, you have basically whatever you can buy in the stock market, you can get within that IRA, excluding some very risky things, which you probably wouldn't want anyways. But so anything that you can buy in the stock market, you can get in an individual retirement account. You also generally save a lot of fees when you transfer to an IRA. So these days you can get a lot of custodians have free investing. So you can get things like stocks, ETFs with no transaction cost. So that's a way to really drop the fees of what you're investing in. And there's a couple things you'll want to be aware of when it comes to your old 401ks is you want to make sure it's pretty seamless transfer. If you're going to transfer to a new account, such as like an IRA or 401k, you want to make sure it's a pretty seamless transfer. And because if it's seen as the 401k gives you a check and say you forget to put in an IRA or you forget to put in your new 401k, well, that could cause some tax implications that you weren't ready for. So you want to make sure there's a smooth transition. So work with whatever custodian that money is going into. Make sure you're working with them to make sure it is a smooth transition, ends up where it needs to be in the allotted time that you need it to happen without incurring a penalty. So usually you have about 60 days to roll that money from the 401k to that IRA or 401k for that example. Another thing to be aware of when it comes to your current 401k is that if you have a loan outstanding on that 401k, the moment you transition jobs, that loan becomes due, so you have to pay it back. So that basically just means that amount of your 401k is just gone. So just something to be aware of when you make that job transition. Don't count on that money coming over with you. And one final thing to be aware of is that now that you've left the company, most likely that HR is not going to care about you. So you may experience some difficulties as you're trying to just move through the logistics of whatever you need done to roll over that 401k, for example, or get clarification on anything in your 401k. You may not necessarily get the most welcome help from your former employer if you need it. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Another money decision that you need to make involves company stock. So if you work for a company that's giving you things like restricted stock units or incentive stock options, then you may need to make some decisions about those specific stock. For example, a lot of companies will have clawback provisions. So this really applies for you transition to a different company, because it may say in your stock vesting schedule that if you leave within a certain amount of time, the company can claw back that stock they gave you, meaning they can just take it back from you. So you could have, say, $100,000 sitting there that you think is yours. It's vested stock, meaning you own it now, yet the company may be actually able to pull that back from you, and that would not be fun. So if you know ahead of time that your company has a clawback provision, at least you can negotiate with the new company knowing that that stock may be disappearing from your checkbook. So make sure you kind of look through any stock agreements that you've signed just so you know what the implications are of transitioning careers. Another thing around stock is that if you have incentive stock options, you may be forced to exercise in a timely fashion. So you may have, like I've seen company plans where they say if you leave the company, you have basically 90 days to exercise those stock options or you lose them. So if you don't have the money to exercise or cover a possible alternative minimum tax bill, that could put you in a situation where you lose out on equity that you thought you had. And again, if you know this is coming ahead of time, then you can make decisions or negotiate with whatever company you're transferring to. But make sure you're looking through what the terms of your incentive stock options are, what the terms of your current equity, and just make sure you're making smart decisions when it comes to your current stock at your company. Another thing to consider is this is more common knowledge, but if you're on a vesting schedule, you don't necessarily own that stock until it vests. So if that stock is unvested, it may just disappear. You may not get any of it as you transition to a new job. So just, again, something to keep in the back of your mind. Make sure you know how much is vested, how much you get to keep, are there any clawback provisions, and do you need to make any decisions around exercising as you're making this transition. So just things to know ahead of time so you can make smart financial decisions when it comes to your company stock. Another thing to consider when making a job transition is your healthcare coverage. So there can often be gaps in healthcare coverage between one job and another. So you want to make sure you understand if this is going to be the situation that you're going to be in when you're making this transition. So know exactly when your healthcare kicks in with your new company. And obviously, when you terminate your employment at your former company, that's usually when it ends there. But you do have the option of COBRA coverage, which basically allows you to kind of bridge the gap between the two companies. That being said, COBRA can be very expensive. So it's one of those things that you just want to make sure you know whether you need to utilize COBRA or not. So COBRA is just a tool that you can, and your former HR will generally help if you need to use COBRA. They'll help you through what that process looks like for how to activate that and how to make sure you're fully covered with healthcare between that kind of employment gap or healthcare gap, if you will. So again, just make sure you're checking to see that you know the implications when it comes to your healthcare and know when your healthcare benefits start actually become effective with the new company. I hope you found this video valuable. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future wealth building tips, but also give this video a like so that way we get a little boost in the YouTube algorithm. And if you have any questions when it comes to making job transitions, especially when it comes to the finances around job transitions, make sure you leave us a question in the comments below. We're always happy to answer any questions that you do have. So make sure you leave any questions. And other than that, make sure you have a great rest of your week and make it awesome. Cheers.